All right, Sally, thanks for hopping on with me.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
So you're our coach today, and
Yes,
I got my cocktail.
I got my cocktail.
Yeah.
It's very watery, but it's a cocktail.
Well, it is about what time is it there? 1?
It's 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, it's noon here, so I figure it's too early for wine or beer.
It's. Let's be real. It's never too early for wine or beer.
Well, that's true.
But we got to keep hydrated.
Yeah,
We gotta...
correct. Okay. So we got the coach, we got the cocktails, and we have some questions for you. Okay.
Awesome.
So, first of all, just kind of tell me what you do. Well, I mean, I know what you do. Just tell everybody else.
Okay. Perfect. So my name is Sally Catherine, and I am a love coach. So what I do is I really work to empower people to find and attract the love that they're looking for, whatever that love looks like for them. And my approach is kind of unique in that I know some other love coaches focus a lot on emotions or masculine and feminine energy and kind of woo-woo level stuff.
Yeah.
But mine is more strategic in nature. So I kind of take the same tactics and techniques you would use to build and grow your own business, but apply it to the dating world. So it's a very kind of cut and dry, step-by-step process to dating the right way and doing it more effectively and successfully. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Gotcha. So I bet you that you got some stories then.
I do.
Okay. I mean, I know you can like drop their names and stuff, but
Yeah.
probably some lessons learned, right?
Oh, a lot. And from my own experience too,
Yeah.
because I did online dating for over 10 years. So much of what I've learned, I'm able to share with others. And actually, that's kind of how it started. My whole, working my way into coaching has been kind of my own transformation and my own personal development in my dating life that's kind of brought me to this point in my life and able to coach others is just from my own experiences and researching the heck out of dating and then applying those techniques to my own dating life and to see what really works. So I've been there. So most of my clients, I've already been where they are. I've already experienced what they've experienced. So
Right. So
yeah.
from my experience, most coaching starts out of pain, like
Yes.
immense frustration, or like, you know what, I'm sick of it. I got to do something different here. So tell me about your worst dating situation. Actually, tell me about you ready to be vulnerable? Tell me about like a rejection that you took. You took pretty hard, but looking back, you're like, man, that guy wasn't right for me, or girl, or whatever the case is.
That's a good question. Okay, so I'd probably say the worst rejection that I've ever faced was probably, I can't say that I've had really heart-wrenching rejections. And this is going to sound really strange and so freaking cliched. And I really don't mean to be that
Okay.
person that's like, oh, I've never been rejected. And
Oh yeah, must be
I've
nice.
never experienced that. No. It's not like that at all. But what I mean to say, I think my frame of mind has always been like, my happiness lies elsewhere. So I never really felt like it was a pure rejection of me personally because I just felt like it wasn't a good fit. But I'd say the worst one would probably have to be the breakup of my first relationship when I was about 26 years old, 25, 26.
How old are you now?
I think I'm 35.
Okay, gotcha. I turned 34 yesterday, so I'm getting old.
Oh, I know. I saw your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think that would be the hardest one that I've experienced was that whole breakup. And I think it was one of those situations where we were on different levels. We weren't on the same page. He lived in another province. He had to move away for work. So the stars just didn't align at all for us. And looking back on that, it was, like you said, it's always a mixed blessing, right? Because it hurts so much in the beginning. But then when you look back and you can see how positive it actually was in the end, or how it just wasn't going to work out. So
Right.
I'm happy that it ended the way it did, because looking back now, I know that we wouldn't have been a good fit for the long term. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had a relationship for a couple years, and I thought it was like perfect in the beginning, right? Because like, so I'm kind of like a very determined guy, like pretty much in everything I do. So I was like, man, I need a really like alpha female, like go-getter, you know?
Yeah.
Wrong, you know? And like we were both like really good at sales, so we're just like arguments never ended because we're so good at like negotiating and stuff. We're just like, there's no point to even have this conversation. And I mean, and every like ex, in my opinion, has served a purpose with my growth. And like, you know, there's some exes like that I really wish I didn't treat them so poorly, I guess you could say. And I didn't treat them poorly like on purpose, like I'm going to be a bad boyfriend or whatever. It was just like, especially in my younger years, probably like 16 to 26, I was like so insecure and like
you just didn't know any better, right?
Yeah,
like it's just like
I was controlling by accident because I was like afraid to lose, you know, afraid to lose love, and like all my happiness was on that person. I was codependent, right?
Yeah.
So like my value was dependent on like how attractive this person found me, or how much appreciation they showed me in my way too, right? So like if they showed me appreciation in their way, how they want to be loved or shown love, I would be like, I didn't feel, you know, I don't feel anything there, like
because you didn't understand it, right? Because we all have, they call it the languages of love. So if you can't relate to it, then you think they must not love me, and so you're trying to like get them to love you in your way, and it doesn't work, and it's so much friction.
Right. And now, so I'm married now.
Oh, yay!
So somehow that happened, and it's a very loving and respectful woman, right, with little clause. Like if she needs to, she'll put me in check.
Yeah.
But she'll also, she's like a helper. Like if you had to look at like the biblical leader and helper situation, that's kind of almost what it is, right? Yeah. And we have a very good relationship because like she's not submissive, right? She'll tell me like exactly what she thinks. But like if I make a decision and she thinks it's wrong, what she'll do is she'll take ownership of my decision and respect it. She'll be like, okay, babe, like I don't think it's the best idea, but let's do it. You know, I'm going to act like I made the decision. Yeah. And I'm going to respect you. And then when I'm wrong later, she doesn't have to say anything. She just she just looks at me. I'm like, okay, I get it. Yep.
I was all in, and you made the wrong choice. No.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So from my experience, what I want to know is like, you know, I've been talking to a few friends too that are kind of like really pressing, you know, like they don't feel good enough because they're, you know, they might be in their 30s or 40s and they're like they're like, what's wrong with me? I can't find love, you know? And what I told them, until they're completely okay with being alone and like just being happy within themselves, they might not be ready for a relationship. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just my opinion. What do you know, give me your feedback on that.
Completely, wholly and completely.
Okay.
And it has to do with owning yourself and owning your power, right? Because until you love yourself, you will not set the boundaries and you will not set the standards for yourself that you should, right? You have to kind of respect yourself and love yourself first, because people can't love and respect you more than you do yourself, right?
Right.
Because your actions and everything you do are going to be capped at that amount. So everything you do is going to be here, so nobody can ever love you more than you love yourself. It's impossible. And I think you have to have a certain level of comfort and confidence in yourself to be willing to open yourself up and be vulnerable, because that's really scary. It's really scary to be so upfront about how you're feeling and how you're dealing with things and how you think and your deepest, darkest desires and secrets and all of that stuff is really scary, because you're exposing the softest part of yourself, right? You're exposing yourself to potential hurt. So until you're really comfortable and confident in yourself and loving yourself and respecting yourself, you can't really invite others into your life in a meaningful way. In a meaningful way, anyways.
So it's like your partner should not be the source of your happiness. It should be a kind of like money, right? If you're a shitty person, you have a lot of money, you're going to be a shitty rich person. Or you're going to be, you know, if you're a generous person, you're going to be a rich, really generous person. Like it just magnifies your qualities, right?
It totally does. Yeah.
So if you're insecure or whatever the case is, everybody has their own issues. So like people that are listening, apply it to yourself. But whatever you have going on, that partner should magnify, like enhance, and shouldn't be like, I'm not complete without this person, right? It should be like an accelerator to extra happiness, not happiness in general. Because happiness and like self-love and self-esteem that has to come first before you're even ready for a healthy relationship.
Amen. And it's interesting when you talked about your relationship, because even though you're the leader and she's kind of the follower in a sense, you're still on the same level. You're still partners, right? Yeah. She's there to support you. It's not like that she's here and you're up here. It's like you're still on the same level and you're partnering together. But it's also interesting that sometimes what we think we want and need is also totally different than what we actually need. And until you've taken the time to kind of become more self-aware and understanding who you are, what you have to offer, and what you actually need in your life to be happy, you can't go out and look for it, right? Because it needs to be clear for you. And it's funny when you talked about your own experience of, you're an alpha male, and so you were thinking you need an alpha female to be on your level, but that's not at all the case, right?
No.
And it happens quite a bit where people are, they think that they want a certain type of person or a certain type of personality until they actually start dating those people and then realize, hey, there's a discordance here. Like, it's not working, right?
Yeah. And it's funny when I met my wife, okay, so she grew up very like conservative, like kind of by the books. I mean, she had her issues like every family does, but like it was very ABC, like very Christian household and stuff like that. So like, and I grew up complete opposite, like complete opposite. Nothing was forced on me. Like my only thing was I just needed to survive, and that's it. Like, and so when we were texting back and forth, she's like, we're having really deep conversations. But, like, there's a part of me, I'm like, dang, this girl's just way too nice for me. And so I just kind of, I wouldn't say lost interest, but just, like, quit communicating because I'm like, it's not too exciting. I'm used to dating bitches, like, like. So then, like, a week and a half later, I just get a random text after we haven't talked for a while, and she's like, you're an asshole, right? And I was like... I said, yeah, I do. She's like, you know why? I said, yeah, because I just quit talking to you without any reason or explanation. She's like, yeah. She's like, I'm not going to force you to hang out with me. And then at that point, I was just like, dang, okay. Like you have all those nice and sweet and loving qualities, but then you also can put me in check. Like, and every alpha male needs someone to put him in check occasionally, right?
Yep.
And like you said, we're equals. Like, we're different, right?
Yeah, you have different rules. You serve different purposes.
Yeah, but exactly, we're equals in the relationship. And because without me doing my part, showing love, and without her, like, respecting me, like, it's not going to work out. And that's actually, some of the biggest fights we have are just over the dumbest shit. Like, I don't even know why we're fighting. And then, like, 2 days later, I'll act like everything's okay. And she's like, is this how you're apologizing? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I thought everything's good. She's like, no, the words need to come out of your mouth, Mike. I'm like,
oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Cracking that whip. No.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, if I met her when I was like 24, it wouldn't have worked out at all. Because I was like chauvinistic. Like, all I want to do is like sleep with women. And I was doing that to build my self-esteem up, right? Like,
because you were insecure, and it was validation.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, yeah, and I'm like, and she wants it again. I must have did something right. Like I feel, like
it's true. It's so funny.
Yeah, and like that happens with women too. Like especially like in the younger years, they just go crazy. And then let's talk about sleeping with a guy too soon.
Yeah. Oh. Because this is a good one.
Because my wife made me wait a lot longer than anybody has, and I really respected her, even though I'm like, I want to have sex, like, but I had so much more respect for her than someone that I like meet and then sleep with right away. It like fizzles out because I'm like, all right, I know my game's not that good. I'm not the only guy that's happened with, like, and if it was that easy for me, like, it just, even if it's not true, it goes in your mind, it just kind of clouds the whole thing. Like, so what's your opinion on that?
Oh, it's a whole can of worms. So I am kind of the thinking along the same lines as you, which is, you should spend time getting to know the person, and really determining if you want them to be in your life long term to see if they're a really good fit for you. And that just takes time, right? And so should you be sharing your body with somebody that you're not even sure you're going to be with in 3 months, 4 months? Probably not the best idea, right?
Correct. I mean, easier said than done, but definitely.
Easier said than done. But at the same time, there have been relationships that have come from one-night stands or sleeping together soon after meeting. So is it the determining factor? No, it's not the determining factor, because even if you didn't like your wife, let's say, and she made you wait that long, it wouldn't change anything, right? Like you would, you know what I mean? There has to be something there. There has to be that love and respect to begin with. So I don't think it's a determining factor, but it can help in creating the right foundation for a strong relationship. And like you say, some guys get in their heads about it, right? Like, okay, if I slept with her so quickly, everybody else did too. And you know what I mean? Nobody wants to feel like they shared their wife with so easily with other people, right? Yeah. And it just comes from knowing yourself and knowing the other person and gauging that relationship and being able to talk about it above all else, right? Yeah. Being able to acknowledge it and talk about it and say, okay, call it for what it is. Right. Go ahead and sleep with somebody on the first date, but don't expect them to call you tomorrow is what I'm saying, right?
Right, they'll call you the next time they want some.
And don't be surprised when it happens.
And then there's always that fear too, like, man, what if the sex is really bad, or like, what is it like? You know, like,
it's so true.
You kind of want to have like the little free sample before you order the whole meal. But
my dad used to say that. My dad's like, Sally, men are like bikes. You need to ride before you buy. And I died laughing. I died.
Man, I'm starting to get warm.
I know, me too.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say someone doesn't have the required amount of self-esteem to be like perfectly happy being single, right? Like they understand that they want, it's something that they're open to as a relationship, but like if they're like insecure, how would you go about developing a healthy self-esteem or level of happiness? And when do you know that you're ready for a relationship?
I think there's lots of things. And actually this is going to sound really funny, but for everybody who's watching, I made a list here because I feel like self-love is, like you said, incredibly important. It's the foundation, right, for everything else. So if you have a weak foundation and then you start piling relationship on top of it, it's going to crumble. And that's when problems like codependency or insecurities show up, right? And I think that's where things like jealousy, possessiveness, controlling behavior really stems from, is that lack, you said, that lack of foundation, that lack of self-awareness and self-love. So there's a bunch of things that you can do to really elevate yourself. But one of the biggest things I'd say, and I know it's going to sound, again, woo-woo or cliche, is changing the recordings you have about yourself. I feel like oftentimes when somebody comes to us with a problem or a situation, we are so kind to them, right? Like we are so good to our best friends. And we lift them up and we say all these positive things about them. And, we encourage them, we support them, we give them so much love and attention. But we don't do the same things for ourselves. Yeah. We're so condemning of ourselves. It's the most bizarre thing.
I posted a status the other day that said, love your neighbor unless you love them like you love yourself. I was judging them, like tell them they need to lose weight, and tell them they're not good enough to find a boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm like, and then just think if you did all that to your neighbor, like it's easy to understand.
Yeah.
How shitty you treat yourself if you're like projecting it onto a different person. You're like, man, I'm really mean to that person.
Yeah.
But all day long,
hate you.
Yeah. All day long you do it to yourself and you don't even know it because it's just so natural, right?
Yeah. And it shouldn't be natural. And I think that's my biggest point is that we need to change that somehow. And so for some people, I know meditation works really well. For other people, it's journaling their thoughts so that they can kind of change their way of thinking, and using affirmations as well to kind of change the wording, like I am wonderful, I am confident, saying all the things that they are.
I am enough. I saw a good TED Talk about that. The power of just saying I am enough every day. Eventually it's going to sink in, you're going to start believing it. Like, if you lie to yourself long enough, eventually you're like, damn, that was true, wasn't it?
It's like fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, it's
like
true.
People talk about that all the time, about being there was a study that was done that they were talking about being in a power stance where you have your shoulders back, your head up,
Superwoman.
and you just, like a Superwoman or Superman pose, right? And they had people do this for 5 minutes, and I think they had to look in the mirror and say something nice about themselves or just act confident. And then they put them through a really, really stressful test. And the people who did the power stance just excelled at the stressful test versus the people who just were thrown right into it.
Yeah, and they overcame fear a lot better. Like, I think it was diving off a cliff or something. Or like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was like they did the power stance and like it lowers cortisol, it raises testosterone.
Yes.
And then I think they jumped off a really high platform or something.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that part.
And then all the people that did all these things like jumped like in 20%, of the time that the other people did. It's kind of cool.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Thank you. I didn't even know that part of the study.
Yep.
But yeah, it's proven, right? Like this is proven. When you change things and you change how you feel about yourself and you change how you think about yourself, it transforms your life. It literally changes and shifts.
Yeah. And then like once you get to that point of acceptance, like you don't have to love everything about yourself, but if you just accept what it is, like things you can't change, like I used to be the most insecure about my hairline because
really?
I've kind of had these widow peaks like since I was like 15, and people are like, oh, you're gonna be bald before you're out of high school, man, you suck.
No.
And I'm like, yeah, I do suck.
Screw you.
I'm like, I need to get some hair, like, and then like, I remember in high school, like, the girlfriend I was with, like, if there's a guy with like really just like the perfect hairline that just like I was envious of, I'd get so pissed. I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? Like, oh yeah, he's better than me?
With his perfect hairline?
Like, I'll kick his ass and then see what his hair's like.
I'll rip his hair out.
Yeah. Put on my own head. Look like Donald Trump in 5 minutes.
Oh my god, that's too funny.
Yeah.
But it's funny, right? Because that's when the insecurity comes into play, right? Because you have something that bothers you about yourself, and then all of a sudden it comes and shows itself in like jealousy and so it's always those kind of behaviors are always a symptom of a greater problem.
Yeah.
I think that's where the confusion lies, is that they attack the jealousy and they attack the possessiveness, and I'm like, that's actually not, like, you shouldn't be talking about those traits. You should be looking at the root of the problem instead of tackling those things.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because the most insecure people in relationships depend on love from that person, but they'll cheat on them in a blink of an eye, right? Because it's still not enough because they don't love themselves yet, right?
Exactly. So they're always seeking validation.
Yeah. I think cheating only happens for 2 reasons. Let me run this by you.
Okay.
Insecurity, right? Because they're depending on other situations for their self-esteem, or variety. And what I mean by variety is that you're not having those awkward conversations about, hey babe, I know this might be a little awkward, but what is the fantasy you have that you're like afraid to tell people? Like, and when are you comfortable to have those conversations? Like, me and my wife, we've talked about every fantasy that you could possibly imagine, and like she's really like preserved, so like it took a couple conversations, but then we got to it, I'm like, dang, this one was freakier than I thought. Like,
score.
Yeah, which is obviously a good thing. And those are the 2 reasons in my opinion: insecurity or lack of variety, which comes from not communicating with your partner. Like, you're afraid that, like, you're embarrassed your partner might judge you, or if like there's like a threesome situation that you have in your mind and you're not willing to tell your partner because you're afraid that they're gonna freak out and be insecure, then maybe you're not ready for a relationship. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And I would call it different terms, but I totally agree with you. For me, like, the insecurity is like validation, seeking validation, which it stems, again, validation stems from insecurity. And the second part, again, is not communicating what your needs are and not getting them fulfilled fulfilled because you're not communicating them.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if somebody, the thing is, I think we misjudge our relationships, right? Like, we're able to share so many things, but like you said, sometimes if you're a reserved person, you're not necessarily going to be so forthright with it. But if you actually take the time to communicate your needs and to communicate what it is you're looking for and need in a relationship, that person is willing to give it to you. I mean, they're in a relationship with you because they love you, right? They care about you, so they're willing to. So
or they're
unless it's
codependent.
something completely crazy, like it's not, you know, if you're like, yeah, let's invite everybody in the neighborhood over and like,
whoa, hey, hey, yeah,
hey-o. You know what I mean? No, but unless it's like something crazy, you know, the person's gonna be willing to give it to you because they want you to be happy.
Yeah.
So it's about communicating your needs.
Yeah.
So for sure, bang on.
Okay.
Bang on. You can be left.
Bang on. I'm here for the gangbang. Oh shit! This is getting out of control. All right.
This is.
All right. Anyway.
Where do we go from here, Michael? Where do we go?
I don't know. But obviously, what we're saying is like the sexual part is important in a like a secure relationship.
It totally is. It totally is. And I think there's such a fear around sexuality, especially male sexuality, because it is so dominant and maybe sometimes it feels aggressive for women. Does that make sense? Because
for sure.
Because we're not wired the same way, you know? And so, and I think a lot of people, when guys show a sexual side to themselves early on in the beginning in dating, women kind of take a defensive front. Like, they're like, oh God, well, I'm not that kind of girl. Yeah. And I'm like, why would you say that? You're not that kind of girl. I'm sorry, I don't like sex. Like, what are you, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
Like, what you're trying to say is, again, it comes down to communication, and I would like to go there with you, but just I'm not quite there yet. So give me some time.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? If things go well, then we'll eventually get to that point. And you can still be flirty and you can still have sexual tension without it going too far, without feeling like, you know, you're not that kind of girl. You know what I mean? Like, play to it. And I think a lot of women just kind of back away from it and they judge so easily, like, a man is only after me for sex. It's not always like that. I mean, guys always want sex, but they care who it's with. Really, at the end of the day, they would prefer to be with somebody who's a partner and who's amazing, and than just have sex with everybody.
And if there is limits, maybe communicate them. Like, I don't want to be like dragging my wife by her hair across the room and be like, come here. It's like, okay, that's a little bit too aggressive, Mike. You might want to relax a little bit.
Like a safe word, porcupine. Lenny was our safe word, porcupine.
Oh man, I'm getting red. Well, this will be good. People need to hear this stuff. So
I agree.
So I don't want to hold you all day. Where can people find you if they? I know you have maybe some things going on or some one-on-one sessions that you do. You know, tell me exactly, like, a little more detail of what you do. Like, I know you're a love coach, but kind of
how I
work
work
through
with
that
people?
process a little bit. Yeah.
Sure. So there's various ways that people can work with me. I have a program called Kickstart Your Love Life. And it basically is, as we discussed, like a very cut and dry step-by-step process to dating in the right way, to get success from dating. So my approach, again, is very strategic, very cut and dry, very step-by-step. So my program is just like that. It's 21 days of just every day doing something actionable.
So it's repeatable.
Yeah. I mean, you could literally, anybody who uses this will see results. You do see results if you put in the work. Obviously, you have to do the work, right? You can't just buy a program and then let it sit in your inbox. It's not going to work that way, right? So I have the self-study program. I have the group coaching version of that program. So it's in a small Facebook group, and Q&A calls every week. The chance to win one-on-one calls with me every week as well. And again, it's the same step-by-step process, but in a group setting, which we're launching September 5th, which I'm really excited about.
Okay.
And then, of course, one-on-one coaching that they can do. So they can sign up for 1 month or 3 months.
Yeah.
Cool. So they can find me on sallycatherine.com, and Catherine is spelled in a really weird way, but we'll link to it on this. Somehow we'll link to it.
Either it'll be in the Facebook comments or it'll be on the web, our websites. So
perfect. Perfect.
We'll figure it out. Is there any, let's just say, is there any books that you've kind of read on relationships that really have helped?
I'd say Matthew Hussey is one of my all-time favorite love coaches.
How do you spell that?
Coaches. Matthew Hussey is just Matthew, and then Hussey is Hussey.
Okay.
He has been huge for me, and actually, I went to see him live in Montreal years ago, and that was kind of the start of my research and my transformation, was just reading a lot of information, and he was one of the go-to guys for me. I was going through what I was going through in the dating world.
Right,
so
right.
I highly recommend him.
Okay, gotcha. So we'll put that in the show notes too.
Perfect.
Okay, well, thanks for stopping by and like helping people.
Thank you for having me.
Understanding. This will be episode 1. Maybe 2. I might do a solo one just introducing the show, but thanks
Perfect.
for stopping by, and
Thank you.
people will be in touch with you.
Perfect. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ching ching.
All right, have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.